Clay. Well, I don't know what time it is in Thailand right now.
It's just on 8 p.m.
All right, man. Well, we'll get you on with your evening. Clay, I'd love to hear about how you arrived in Thailand, but why don't you first tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you've been up to over the last handful of years?
Well, short version because this could take
Don't
like
worry,
an
we'll,
hour
we'll
in
go back.
itself.
We'll go back to the beginning because I know like you're an ex-Navy guy, and then you get into performance coaching, and now you're in Thailand. So I want to hear it all.
Yeah, there's a bit to get to. Uh, in a nutshell, first generation Australian, born to immigrants, migrated there, and grew up in Perth in Western Australia, which
Where was your family from
South
previous to
Africa.
Australia? Okay.
Well, it's like long and convoluted. So South Africa, but if you go back a few generations, Australia and the Netherlands, and so like I'm just a mutt. I come from everywhere,
You
basically
guys
just
are just
Europe.
jumping back and
Yeah,
forth, huh?
exactly.
Is that a common thing for people from South Africa to move to Australia, or like was that also common previous to that?
Back then,
I really don't know a lot of the history of like.
not really.
Mm,
So back then, that was in the 80s. It wasn't very commonplace.
okay.
Around the mid 90s, then yeah, it became very commonplace to leave to either the UK, Canada, New Zealand, or Australia. Not so
Okay.
much Australia because most South Africans think Australians are arrogant. And yeah, I mean, they're not necessarily wrong there. A lot of people are
Mhm.
arrogant, whatever, right? You get arrogant people no matter where you go. So it is what it
Sure.
is. Um, but yeah, so moved to Australia, grew up in Australia. Uh, Fun fact, which I learned randomly, was that if there ever was like a massive uh, doomsday going to happen back when the Soviet Union was around, Perth was the target they were going to hit because
They were gonna hit
it was the most
Perth.
isolated Western capital city. So the fallout would be so minimal to everyone else. So apparently, I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently it would have shown their capabilities and also mercy at the same time because it didn't wipe out millions and millions of people. I think at the time Perth was like 500,000 or something like that. So I thought that was pretty
Uh,
interesting.
here's another atomic warfare fun fact that I just heard like 2 days ago. When the United States and the Soviet Union were involved in the Cold War, the plan on paper was to launch all of our missiles at Russia, knowing that Russia would in response launch at us or whatever who hit first. But we also were going to launch a bunch of missiles into Asia, specifically China, because the way that I heard it described was is like if all the Western and European countries are going to be left to
May as well take out Asia.
nothing. Well, we're not going to let these Asian guys, run the world. That was like literally the idea, like during like the mid, 60s, 70s, 80s. So that was a
I
crazy
believe
time
it.
to be alive.
I
Yeah.
believe it. So grew up in Perth. Standard childhood, man, like an average Joe. Dad that worked his ass off, right? Worked 19-hour days, 7 days a week, so never really saw him.
Jeez.
Wanted to provide for the house, back the more traditional social roles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mum used to work with him 3 or 4 days a week, usually 3 days a week kind of thing, and then raised me and my brother. And I managed to go way off the rails and did a whole bunch of stupid stuff, which we can get into ad nauseum if you really want to go down that path. There's no problem because it continued all the way up until I was around about 30 odd. I was a very slow learner. When I left school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. My brother joined the Navy. He's like, yeah, man, like it's pretty good. I'm enjoying life. I'm fit. I'm happy. I get to travel. I get paid. I'm like, okay, sounds like a good idea. So I joined the Navy. I hated the Navy. My brother loved the Navy. So we're like
Mm.
chalk and cheese. Like it was right up his alley. I just couldn't stand it.
Were you on a ship like
Mm-hmm.
regularly, or is
Yep.
that not?
So I spent the
Because I
first 2 years training, and then the rest of the time I was on the same ship until I left. So for 5.5 years.
did you travel like throughout the world with that
Yeah, it's a
ship,
bit of a
or
stretch.
is it?
Went around
Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah.
Went to Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, India, the Arabian Gulf, the Emirates, Oman, a few other places.
I
So,
consider that, pretty thorough world traveling. I know some of the U.S. like Navy guys; they'll go all over.
everywhere.
But some of them also won't. They'll just be, like, on a ship, like, stationed, like, outside of Japan, and they're like, "Our job is just kinda to stay here."
Yep.
I'm like, "Oh, that sounds kinda rough."
It just depends on where you go, right? Depends on your deployment. But Australia doesn't really have anything like that. We don't have any foreign bases, so we don't have anything which would require us to stay in the one location. So we're
Mm,
usually going there to show the flag and to connect with the local government and also show capability and build relationships and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't really
mhm.
help when the sailors that pull into port, it's not the same anymore. They've changed the culture massively since I was in. It's like 20 years ago since I left. Um, but it doesn't help so much when the sailors go in, get drunk. It's a Muslim country, and then they start kicking in doors and doing fire extinguisher demonstrations on their buddies who are also staying in the hotel. And yeah, that's not a very good, hey, this is the quality of our Navy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But these things happen. So, uh, yeah, finished my
And
time in the Navy.
even with all that, you didn't enjoy it.
No, well, those parts were fun, but my whole aura for the Navy, like the whole energy, it got like a really negative stigma pretty early on. I enjoyed all my training. That was good. I enjoyed my ship posting up until we went on the first trip, which was extremely boring, man. So Australia, like pretty much every Western country in the world, at least the Five Eyes anyway, with the exception of maybe Canada because it's so far away, has massive issues with people coming over illegally, trying to claim refugee status, and they're usually like political, economic migrants. And
Mhm.
so, as soon as they land on Australian territory, they're given asylum status no matter what. So, as the Navy, we're like patrolling to make sure we intercept the boats so they don't get to land, so that we can put them in the detention centers, send them back, process, etc.
Got it, got it.
We were up off Christmas Island, which is it's a bit of a joke, but it's considered Australian territory. It's like work it out in miles. It's around about 1,200 to 1,400 miles off the coast of Australia, and around about 300 miles off the coast of Indonesia.
Okay.
So, but it's Australian territory, and the local
Right.
inhabitants are Malays, and they speak Malay, which is very similar to Indonesian. But yeah, it's Australian territory. Anyway, so we were over there. We went up to Jakarta and showing the flag, and I was on cafe party, which is like it's a joke of a duty. You don't have to do anything. You just clean the cafe after people eat, right? And you get ancillary duty. So my role was a weapons tech, but because you're part of the ship's crew, you have to do all these other duties. So you've got to like help when you pull into port. You've got to put like buoys down, or you've got to pull in ropes, or you've got to do this. Like there's all different things you've got to do.
Mm.
And so that was part of the duty watch. And the other role of duty watch is like while we protect the ship, we also protect it internally too. So we have like a toxic gas leak, or if we have a fire or a flood, we're like the initial response. So
Mhm.
anyway, me and my let's call it arrogant naivety, I thought it'd be a great idea to have a couple of Bloody Mary oyster shots while I was on duty, which is, clearly a smart thing to do when you're not supposed to drink at all. But me being Einstein level intelligent decided it doesn't apply to me.
So
So
how old were you, like,
at
when you
this stage,
first went in?
I was 17 when I joined, and at this
Right?
stage, I was 19.
Okay. So
So young,
not to forgive it, but
yeah,
that's pretty young to be in charging with, relatively serious responsibilities.
yeah. Oh, yeah. My role was extremely serious responsibilities. So I mean, yeah, I just was not capable at that point in time, and just was not that at the level of intelligence and especially emotional intelligence and maturity that I needed to be at.
Mhm.
So anyway, I had a couple too many. I wasn't hammered drunk, but something didn't sit well, so I went retired for the evening, spewed up in my rack, spewed all down myself. Good times.
Yep.
Got out, cleaned it up, went took it, threw it in the washing machine, came back, and a couple of guys had heard about it. My boss specifically, like my direct line supervisor, and he comes in. He's like, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something to do with the weapon system." I'm like, oh, okay, cool, let's go. They're gonna talk to me. He's like, "Hey, so word on the street is that you were drinking last night." It's like, "Yep." He's like, "I'm disappointed, but you're gonna go do this. Go now. I'm gonna," and off he went. I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no worries." Then he gets with the other supervisor who's slightly more senior, but still of the lower ranks. And they get all of the department together and they say, okay, so like no one say anything. We're going to handle this in house, blah, 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 blah. 30 minutes later, I'm with the MPs getting questioned. It's gone straight to the CO because like it's just gone all up the chain, right? They didn't keep it in house. They
Mm,
did complete opposite.
mm,
So me being my big fan of victimhood that I carried as a badge of honor, which I didn't even know I did for the longest part of my life up until 27,
mm,
decided that they had betrayed my trust. Never mind the fact that I shouldn't have been drinking. Never mind the fact that I was completely in the wrong. And had I not done these things, never would have put them in that position. No, I like, oh, they screwed me over. So, like, no, I'm going to go fight them. This is going to be the thing. So I just lied through my teeth. Absolutely lied through my teeth. No one had seen me drink, with the exception of the guy that gave it to me and the junior MP who had also been drinking and he was on duty. So it was kind of like the perfect storm to get away with it because if he charged me, there was a very real chance that he was, because he'd have to admit, like, well, you were drinking last night as well. And then the
mm-hmm.
whole thing was unraveled. So I ended up getting away with it all. But it, for whatever reason, created this message, this underlying belief in my brain that I can't trust my department and they're just going to sell me out first chance they get.
Mm.
Even though it was all me, right? I get that now. I get it's so clear. But back then, I was like, "Oh, look at me, poor me. Oh, the world's against me." Blah blah blah. Like, no, man, you're a moron, and you did it. So that was like the start of my Navy career. Well, at being at sea anyway. And from then, there were like several incidents that started to happen along the way that kind of just reinforced that. And so I didn't really enjoy it. It was good. It's taught me a lot. It's definitely been a leverage point. But the actual Navy itself and the culture and everything, like it just wasn't for me.
So do you think that like after that your attitude just sort of changed and then these little things maybe that weren't like as big of a deal, you just didn't react to them the right way?
Oh, 100%. Yep. Yep. It 100% like it what's the word? It created like this jaded mentality where I started having this lens that was fractured. So everything's coming to me like, oh no,
Yep.
you're doing this to get me. Oh, you're doing this, and so it just changed the whole perception. And yeah, to the point where I got back from Iraq and I had a bunch of leave left, and I just walked off the ship, and although I didn't really discharge from the Navy, I just left. Like, I'm done. I don't want anything to do with this. And just walked off and never went back. And then started my
Mm.
career in oil and gas, which was basically like the Navy, but 3 times the pay, 6 times the time off. So the lifestyle went into overdrive and was partying and going crazy and traveling a lot.
Where was the oil and gas location?
Uh, so I was in Singapore to start off with, and Northwest Shelf, which is off Western Australia. Then I was in Indonesia. Then I was in Tanzania, Kenya,
Jeez.
Mozambique, South Africa,
So you're on
Angola.
ships like
Yep,
off
all
the
rigs.
coast,
Yep.
and then what's your function there? You like an oilman or are you
I was
like
a
kind of more
subsea
managing?
engineer.
Okay. So
So
what is that person's function?
do you did you ever watch the movie called I don't know if that's what they called the movie, but Deepwater Frontier with Mark Wahlberg?
I don't think I have, but I think I know the
But
movie you're talking
you
about.
you also remember like that massive oil spill in the Gulf
Oh,
at
yeah, yeah.
BP? Yeah. So the equipment that's supposed to stop that from happening was the stuff that I used to look after,
Got it.
right? And that their equipment wasn't working, and they were pushed to the limit by BP and kept pushing and pushing, even though they needed to do maintenance and needed to repair things. So like,
Mm,
they carried on going. So I actually got hired because of that incident. They pulled me into Transocean and a whole bunch of other guys, much to the disgust of many people that were working in Transocean originally, but we got pulled in and I got a job there. And yeah, I was working around through Asia and then all through Africa, both on the eastern side and the western side. And then uh, ended up leaving Transocean, worked for Noble Energy, which everyone who's in the oil industry is like, why? Why would you go from Transocean to Noble? because Noble's like worse conditions and worse rigs and worse pay. It's just different opportunity, different
Mm.
crowd, fresh faces, do different things, and ended up enjoying that. But just I think I just had enough. There was no soul to it. It was kind of soul destroying. I was getting paid exceptionally good money, like really good money. Can't bitch about that. But there's
Mm.
just no drive in the work. I was like, I need to do something else.
What do you
And
mean by that? You said it was soul destroying or crushing. I'm not sure what you said, but
both. Um,
what was it that made it feel that way?
like you're just missing out on life, right?
Because you're
So
just out on this boat and
yeah, so you are and you're not, right? You're missing out on life. So I missed. I was asked to be best man at two of my friends' weddings. Couldn't attend both of them because I was right in the middle of my rotation, which means I would have had to either get a swap, and no one would swap. So the only other way to get it was to quit my job.
mm,
And I was like, I kind of like trying to build a life for myself, so I kind of need to do this. So I missed that. I missed a lot of other things that happened throughout time as well, and it was like you're living two separate lives. You got this life when you're at work, and you got this life when you're not at work. And when you're at work, it's like all this, and then when you're at home, it's all this, and it just became meaningless. And the environment was just not something I wanted to be around. Like the companies, and maybe they've changed a lot. I don't know. I can only speak from my experience. But the companies would always talk about how they're sustainable, how they're going to support you. So you have the drilling contractor who I work for, and then you have the oil company who hires the drilling contractors to go drill.
mm-hmm,
And so we're talking like Chevron, ExxonMobil, BP, Shell, et cetera, right? And I'm like, okay, no worries. We're going out there, and they tell you, oh, we're going to do this, and this is going to happen, and then push comes to shove, and it's safety out the window. Just get the job done. We don't care. Oh, and it was just like such a stark standard. I got in trouble a couple of times because I said I refused to do something. And then they said, well, you're on the next chopper out of here. I said, well, you better have a good reason to, because otherwise you're going to be in a lot of trouble. This is Australia. You can't get away with this kind of stuff. Like, I have not broken any safety rule. I don't have to follow something if it's unsafe, and I've told you it's unsafe. Like, you're asking me to do something which is highly dangerous. I said in rough conditions, which I shouldn't be doing. And so things like happen like that repeatedly. I worked
mm,
for this one company for Transocean. They sent me out to a rig while I was a trainee, paid me as a trainee, but had me fulfilling a qualified engineer's role. So I had to sign on everything. So if something went wrong, I went to jail. So I was carrying all the responsibility and everything like that. And when I brought it up, I got kicked out of the department for being a troublemaker.
mm,
And so that was kind of like an attitude that goes through. Like, everyone just wants you to shut up and do the job. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll shut up and do the job, but then give me all the benefits that come along with it, right? If you want me to do the job, like, let's make everything even, and we'll go forward. And so that was kind of like rife through the industry. And maybe it was just me and my victim mindhood again. The only reason I know it's not is because every single one of my friends that's in offshore wants to get out, and they hate it. And like,
mm,
I don't want to do this. This is just like soul sucking. It's like missing time with. Didn't have kids at the time, but all my friends would miss time with their kids. They wouldn't see their kids grow up, and the kids would kind of turn into rat bags because they're never at home, so don't really have dad around. So they're used to just doing whatever they want. And then dad comes home and showers them with gifts, and dad goes away again. So,
mm-hmm,
not that I actually wanted to start a family, but I was just like, there was just too much back and forth. I'm like, I want something that's more consistent. I didn't know what, but something. And then
mm,
I ended up getting made redundant because back in the day, the US and OPEC started going into this production war. So the US started going after all the fracking. This is back when fracking first kicked off,
mm,
because the oil price was so expensive. All these fracking wells were actually able to be done because the price of oil made it worthwhile. And so the US opened all this stuff up. And then to stop the US doing that, OPEC just started releasing oil. and the price of
Mm.
oil went from like $130 a barrel. Don't quote me on this; it's around about that, and dropped down to something like $30 a barrel within a couple of months. And
Mm.
this is like 2014, and there were thousands of rigs that just got mothballed and stacked and go, okay, we're done, because they were too old or they're too out of date, and so they couldn't really afford to like pay crews and pay this and pay that, and like the industry just went 70% gone within the space of three
Jeez.
months. And that's how oil and gas is. It's also feast or famine. And I was something like, I'm just not interested in that either. Like, I wanted something that I was not necessarily that I'm in control of, because you're never in control of everything, right? You can't control all the macros in the environment with the country, but at least have some idea where I could like maybe go get more leads, or I could do this, I could, things to move in a direction. And I think that's the part that was soul sucking, because you put in all this work and all this effort, and at the end of the day, you're just another number. I'm like, okay, why am I doing this? And
Yeah.
and not only that, like I mean, you could argue that with the majority of businesses that you're just another number, right? Not in everyone, so we're clear, but in the majority, you're treated like just another number. And when you're giving up half of your life to be in the middle of the ocean, it's kind of adds weight to it.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, just such a big global industry too,
Hmm.
and it just like those places you're talking about. It just touches so many parts of the world, but you don't ever really see it,
Hmm.
right? Like me as an American, like I don't think I've ever seen an oil rig. Like, I don't think I've literally ever seen an oil rig. Now I'm in like a certain area. There's like some natural gas that they do in like Ohio, Pennsylvania,
Yep.
but you're way out there. You're like out of sight of everyone. You're just like doing this thing so that everybody else can, charge their cell phone. Just it
It's
does
okay.
feel like it would be a very weird like disconnect from reality.
Well, I mean, it was no different, because my first real job, right? So I mean, I worked at KFC and McDonald's. I did a milk run. I did a paper run when I was little, right, before I left
There you
school.
go.
But my first real job was the Navy, and I was spending 6 to 9 months away. So it wasn't that, like, it was just, I don't know. For whatever reason, for me, something changed, and I was like, this is just not enjoyable. Like, I'm getting the money and I'm showing up, and it's great, and I'm super grateful for that, and it's time for something different. And that was what it was about, right? I mean, like, people would have killed to be in the position that I was in, and I'm well aware of that. And so I don't want to say, oh, look, I'm ungrateful. Like, I was extremely grateful for it, and I just realized that it was time for something different and time for me to make a change.
Do you feel like you brought some of the like negative sentiment from the Navy over into that?
I think I brought some negative sentiment through my entire life, no matter what I did, up until like 2013, 2014. No, no, let's even go 2000. Yeah, 2014. And around about March 2014, things started to change.
Okay. Talk me through kind of what happens next as we're leading into that March of 2014.
So I got made redundant. I fly back home. My now ex-wife, but my wife at the time, was a Brazilian girl who I'd met working offshore, and she came back from work. It would always work weirdly. Like, I'd get back and she'd get back 3 days after me. Then I'd fly out. She'd leave like a couple of days after me. So I was always home. And so I got home because the rig got shut down, so we lost the contract. So I got home like 2 weeks before her, like 3 weeks, and so I was just sitting around being like this kind of depressed bum, even though I didn't really want to do it anymore because it didn't
Yeah.
go out on my terms. I
Yeah.
like had a hissy fit.
You didn't get your triumphant walk into the boss's office. I quit.
Which I didn't even do anyway, because the rig manager at the time, his name's Bruce Boyle. He's a really good dude. Like, got a lot of time for him. Really lovely guy. And he's like, "Hey man, this is your son. All right, cool, no worries. When we off?" He's like, "You're off tomorrow." You're not upset? I'm like, "Nope. I'm really happy. Thanks. Appreciate everything." He's like, all right. See you later." So like, he was very weird out, because most people like super upset. They're crying. They're freaking out. What am I going to do? How am I going to pay for things? Like, I don't care. Like, I'm good. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so I was moping around the house for a couple of weeks. She comes back, being the fiery Latina that she is. She's like, "What are you doing? You smell. Get off your ass. Go do something. What's wrong with you? Make something of your life." All right. Like, shook it up. I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do. For about 3 years prior to that, I'd been going down a path of, let's say, learning persuasion, but I hadn't. I'd been learning language patterns to try and manipulate people. Let's just
Okay.
call it what it is, right? not because I wanted them to go and do things that were harmful to themselves, because I wanted them to keep their word when they made deals with me so that they'd actually do the thing they said they're going to do. So I could then persuade them to do that when we had a conversation.
Hmm.
And it didn't work out very well. And knowing what I know now, that's largely because when you're kind of like a piece of trash, it doesn't matter how amazing your persuasion skills are, and mine weren't that good, so we're clear. It's not really going to work that well because you're a piece of trash. Because people just don't want to deal with you in the first place. And I had a lot of stuff to work through, and I had to go through the motions of doing all this stuff. And I went and signed up for an NLP training, which a lot of people say is pseudoscience and it's a waste of time. It's just like, yep, not going to argue with you. That being said, out of that training, it like sparked something in me, and I felt different, and I felt things change, and so I left and came back, and I was like, oh, this is cool, and people noticed I was acting differently, doing things differently,
Mm.
and then I started using the techniques that I learned at that training on other people, and then just started a coaching business overnight, and where are we now? 11 years later, here we are.
Do you want to give like a one-on-one on NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and like just maybe what you learned briefly in that course, or maybe even why you were interested in that? It sounds like you wanted to kind of persuade people to do things that you wanted them to do, but
So the reason for taking NLP wasn't necessarily for that. It was more it had been a continuation. So when I was studying these language patterns, so I studied a guy. The first book I read was the Black Book of Persuasion by Rintu Basu, who's now passed on. He's in the Great Beyond. Then I read another book by his name's just vanished from my brain. Um, it was really big in the pickup scene for the what do you call those guys? Pickup
pick up
artists.
the puas.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Puas.
funny. I was just talking about that like on someone else's podcast earlier this week. Not that I know anything about it, but a really great book was written about it called The
The
Game
game.
by
Yeah.
Neil Strauss.
Hmm.
Great book. Whether or not you're into it, just entertaining read.
It's a highly entertaining read. He also does expose like one of the massive flaws there. So one of the guys he mentions in that book, oh,
Ross Jeffries?
thank
Talking
you.
about
Yep,
Ross
Ross
Jeffries? Yeah.
Jeffries, right?
Yeah.
I got his speed seduction book, and I was reading through that because that's got a bunch of language patterns in it as well. And so I was reading all this stuff, and NLP kept coming up in both books. So I was like, let's just go see what's in it. So I went and
Yeah,
did this
right.
NLP training, and it had nothing to do with pickup. It had nothing to do with persuasion. It was more therapeutic because the people they modeled in NLP were therapists. So
Mm.
they modeled Milton Erickson, who's like one of the godfathers of modern day. Well, he is the godfather of Ericksonian hypnosis, which is basically indirect hypnosis. So instead of me telling that you'll now close your eyes, you'll now do blah, 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 it's more making suggestions and then altering the tone of my voice so that I can, for lack of a better word, have a conversation with your conscious mind and your subconscious mind at the same time and create that kind of association to allow you to go in a trance. And he also got hypnosis off of the weird and wacky world and had it brought and recognized as like an actual medical process, which is why you can go see a psychiatrist and actually have hypnosis sessions, etc. And then there are a couple other people. So Fritz Perls for Gestalt therapy, Virginia Satir for family therapy and her language patterns. And there are a couple other people. So what they did is they went and took these amazing therapists who were getting better results than anyone else, and they started breaking down what they were doing
Hmm.
and with the language and with how they're doing things. And so they started to build a set of techniques based off of their language that people could replicate and you could give to someone that had zero training, and these people could get amazing results that
Mm.
people weren't getting after a 3 or 4 year psychology degree. And so it became a very, very good diagnostic tool, but it's just a tool. And there are many people that don't really know how to use it. And if you ask anyone that's qualified psychologically, well, not anyone, there are some people that are very much like one of my trainers in NLP is, or let me rephrase, was an associate professor of psychology at one of the universities where he was, and he is a huge trainer in NLP, so he's a huge believer in it. But he's also got the psychological background as well, so it's a layer by
Hmm.
itself. Um, yeah, it's got a lot of shortfalls, and a lot of people just use it like a mechanic. Like, oh, you've got this, so I'm going to do this technique. Or you got this, I'm going to do this technique. And it's like a machine shop.
Mm.
But NLP was basically just a way of modeling excellence and figuring out a way to repeat that, distilling, breaking things down to their core patterns, and then applying those core patterns in other contexts.
Mm. So you said that this course, maybe not quite what you were looking for, but it sparked a change in you. What did you start to feel? What started to happen? Where do you go from there?
This, it's tough, man. There's one thing which they do in this NLP training, which is called parts integration. And it's basically just a really good set of dissociation. I had no idea what that was when I went through the training, but now I do. And so what you do is, let's say someone's having like this internal conflict, and part of them wants to do this, and part of them wants to. You've probably said it a million times. Yeah, well, part of me wants to do this, and part of me wants to do that.
Yeah, I got things right now. Part of me wants to do this, and part of me wants to go to Thailand. Part of me wants to like stay here and keep growing the business. Of
Right.
course.
So what happens is sometimes you'll have this point where those parts become in such a conflict that it starts to derail you from being able to do what you normally do, and you start to become dysfunctional. Right.
Okay. Okay.
Dysfunctional in the sense, not like you've got some pathology and you need to be diagnosed and sent to the mental hospital, but dysfunctional for you, right? You would usually just hammer out 50 calls a day. You close 10 of those, you do this. But now, like, you're lucky if you get 5 calls a day, and you're lucky if you close one every week. And like, because it's different for you. So
Do you see this pop up a lot in people's relationships? Part of me wants to be with my girlfriend or wife, part of me doesn't, and then you kind of aren't really showing up. Is that
it can do. I think a
okay?
lot of the times, though, it's not as complex as that. And a lot of
Okay.
the times it's just, so you can do this thing called the pass integration, where you bring them out and then you start creating a trance. And then what happens through like autonomic motor signals, like your arms start coming together by themselves, like the subconscious just starts pulling them together. And as you're talking, you're embedding suggestions, and then you're creating this connection. So when they come together, you create this cohesion. And when that happened, like, I just felt an intense amount of heat just like rush through my chest and spread out through my body, which
Mm.
there were no suggestions about any kind of heat. There were no suggestions about feelings, like nothing, because everyone that was going through the training was a complete novice and had no idea what they're talking about. So they weren't making any of these suggestions, or even trying to like preempt what was going to happen, or trying to prime the person's brain for expectation. And so when it happened, like, I just burst into tears. I had no idea what was going on. Like, what the hell? And that night, I had one of the best sleeps I've ever had in my entire life. I can't tell
Mm.
you what it was. I have no clue. I can't tell you what changed. I can't tell you what I let go of. Nothing. But I can tell you that something shifted. I felt something internally. I felt a lot less stress. I felt like I
Mm.
was more connected with myself. And so I had such an intense experience from someone that didn't really know what they were doing. And I think it
Th-
was just more because I was ready for it than the fact that they were actually really, really good. Does that make sense?
This was like a person who was getting training on
Yep.
that weekend,
Yep.
and then they were like, "Let me try it." Like, grab a partner and try it.
Yep.
That's
That is
wild.
literally what happened. Right?
That's
Here's the
hilarious.
demonstration. Okay, go choose a partner. Okay, go. And this guy was like, "Man, I'm really good at this." Like, yeah, okay, maybe you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
yeah,
crazy.
so I had that experience, and people asked me about it, and I explained it like I'm explaining to you. Like, oh, do you think you could do that? I'm like, yeah, sure, sit down, let's go. Like, what? I'm like, yeah, no problem. Like, okay, and then it kind of just went from there. I approached a whole bunch of retreats in Phuket, because there's a lot of retreats. People come here from a lot of the Arab countries. They come here from Bangkok. They come here from Singapore, from KL, because Phuket's pretty chill. And they got
Mhm.
these retreats, Hong Kong, and they come down here to get relaxation, to go on a detox, to do this. And I used to give talks at the retreats, and there were 5 retreats that I was talking at a week, and just having conversations with people. I give demonstrations and show people what I could do, and give them ideas and try to break paradigms, etc. And sometimes people will be like, "This is really interesting. I'd like to know more. Can I work with you?" And other times people are just like, "Yep, thanks so much. See you later. Don't waste my time."
Mm.
And that's kind of how the business started. Then a buddy of mine, who now he's moved back to the Netherlands, he was a physiotherapist. He called himself the injury fixer, because that's literally what he did. He worked at a CrossFit gym as a physiotherapist, and he used to fix everyone's injuries. And then he started working with like fighters and stuff like that. He's very good at what he does. he got into online marketing. He was big in online marketing, so he was reading Gabe Vinga stuff, his Dan Kennedy stuff, like Carlton stuff, like all Halbert stuff. Like he was like going through it religiously. He'd read and read and read, and he's going through all this stuff. And he's like, "Hey man, like you're really good at what you do. You need to come meet this guy." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Because you need to take your business online. Like these people are not your clients. Like you want to find, trust me." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So I paid $2,000. Went to this Project Persuasion was the event called by a good friend of mine now, Mitch Miller, and he started to go through. He started off and okay, so tell me what you do. Tell me what you charge. I said, "Oh, I help people quit smoking permanently, like in one session, and I charge $400." And everyone's like, "What? You don't charge enough. You should be charging like $1,000. You should be charging this." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "It's $400, man. It's good money. It's like $400 an
Yeah,
hour. Like that's really good." Like, no, you
yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah,
understand the value you give. You don't do this, like, because they're all marketers, right? So start
yeah,
telling me I
yeah.
need to do this, like, ugh. So that got me started online because they're obviously all marketers and entrepreneurs. And like, wow, these guys really want to pay. They see the value in it. So maybe I should just start working with these. And then I started going to events and speaking at events, nothing major, just like small things. And yeah, my business kind of survived mostly on referral or me speaking at events until COVID. And then around about the time of COVID, things were still really, really good. And then I had this brilliant idea that I should build an app, because
Okay.
I'm this big swinging, and I can do whatever I want because I'm so amazing. And then proceeded to not only torch the app and not actually deliver anything and burn through just shy of $750,000. I also torched my coaching company because I spent so much time focusing on the app.
What was the app supposed to do?
So the app was called Rhythmoya, and I still think it was a brilliant idea at the time. Uh, it was a combination of things. It had 5 different areas. One area was like the Zen area, and in the Zen area, you had customizable meditations. So you
Hmm.
could customize the length, you could customize the background music, you can customize the brainwave entrainment. It had audio, like hypnotic audio recordings, and you could again customize all the background sounds and stuff like that. It had breathwork sessions where you could choose different breathwork sessions. You could extend the cycle. So if you're doing box breathing, you could do 3 second pauses. You could do 5 second. You could do 10. Like everything was like fully customized. That's just one section. Then it had another section which had all these tools that you're tracking things daily. So you're tracking your water, when you're drinking water, what time you're drinking the water, your food, your movement, and then you're tracking like your thoughts. You track this. That became this thing. Then it also had a chat, like an inbuilt chat system, and then also had like a live call system, so I could give lectures and calls inside there, so straight to the community. Like it was nuts.
That's
Like,
that's a lot of stuff to try to plug into the app. I
yep,
would if I was your app coach, I'd be like, What's your favorite idea? Let's start with that."
yep. So yeah, I crashed and burned, and it was just like constant change. We almost got it to the point. Like I didn't get an MVP out, but I got something out that worked, and the part that worked, people absolutely love. Like this is awesome. And so the one section that got the most review from it was the Zen section, which was the customizable breathwork meditations and hypnosis stuff.
Mhm.
But even that was having issues and it was crashing. I was like, okay, I'm like, I just need to shut this down because I'm going to bankrupt myself.
Well, I mean, it is a good idea because I mean, the Calm app, I see them all the time. And who is that? That was made by Sam Harris. Am I making that up?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know about the Calm app? Um,
Oh, you're talking about like that tweeting birds?
no. Well, I've never used the Calm app, but yeah, yeah,
They
it's
put
by
the
Sam
headband
Harris.
on. It's got like the birds that tweet when you're in
No,
the.
there's just an app. Maybe it's not popular, in the remainder of the world, but you probably know Sam Harris then, right?
Mm-mm.
Like famous. All
Nope.
right. Well, Sam Harris, famous neuroscientist, and from what I understand, a really successful entrepreneur in the United States. He's like a ex Stanford professor or something, but he has an app called Calm, and
Okay.
it's like really popular in the United. So popular that if you're watching like a football game, you'll see a Calm app. Uh,
Oh,
like
really?
TV commercial. So yeah,
Wow.
so I mean,
Okay.
you were right. It just maybe took an entrepreneur with like $50 million in his pocket to be able
No,
to
it
do
just
it.
took an entrepreneur that wasn't trying to put 5 apps into one.
Well, also, this is something that I tell people all the time. Like, I'll go back and I'll speak to like college kids where I went to school, and they all have app ideas, of course. And now that you've done it, you kind of, have learned everything that you need to know. And, you always just kind of got to sit them down and be like, now, this is a cool idea. Are you the right person to bring this to the market? Like,
Mhm.
let's be real with ourselves. Like, do you have technical acumen? No. It's like, okay, all right. Well, that is a strike. I got to be honest with you. Like,
Oh
do
yeah.
you have like an enormous budget? And it sounds like you did have a budget. Like these college kids, a lot of them have no budget. They're like, no. I'm like, okay, that's strike two. Like, have you ever done something like this in the past? Definitely not. Okay, it's like this is sort of strike three. Like,
Well,
not
see,
to,
that's the thing. Like,
poo poo on anyone's
no,
dreams. I
you're
never
right.
want to tell someone like this isn't something you should go after. But if you're like 19 years old and you've never ran a business before, like let's not shoot for Uber yet. Like let's shoot for like successful plumbing business in, a suburb of Columbus, Ohio. Like if you can do that, then I'm like, all right, sweet, let's start stacking up wins.
Right. So for me, the reason why I pushed so hard was I've been coaching at that stage for like 7 or 8 years now, and I'd built all meditations. Like I built all the meditations, I built all the breathwork sessions, I built all this, I built all these Excel spreadsheets that did all the things. So like I built all like the custom macros and everything. I'd done all of that, so everything was there, but it wasn't combined. And so I was like, it just needs to be combined. And obviously, there's not one thing where I can just go, hey, let's just put all this stuff in. Now make this into a thing that all works in one go. So it didn't really work. So I had like all the pieces. I just didn't have the glue to make it stick. So
Mm.
some you lose.
S- So this app project takes, ostensibly time and money and effort and energy, and eventually, what you decide that hey, this is not going to come to fruition.
Yeah. So I was down to like my last 20 grand, and I'd had a huge exodus of clients because I torched my reputation at the same time. Because obviously, I just made this huge promise I'm going to deliver this thing, and it didn't deliver.
Mm.
And so I needed to refocus and regroup. And I was like, okay, I've got 20 grand left. I can't afford to pay the team next month because the team's 20 grand a month. So, like, I just need to kill it.
Mm.
There wasn't really much of a choice, you know. I'm so happy that I never borrowed a cent for it. I'm not happy that, I torched through like $750,000 almost. Um, but I'm extremely happy that I didn't torch other people's money. Like, extremely happy. And I know
Mm.
people say, "Oh, well, VCs they're used to that." I'm like, I don't care, man. I don't care if VCs are used to it. I've got zero interest in torching through someone else's money. They've worked hard for their money. Like, I don't want to go and do that.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends. Depends on how you view it. Would you ever raise money for a future project like something like that, or
So if I was
do
going
you
to do something like
appreciate
that
the way you
again,
did it?
if I was going to do something like that again, I'd get the MVP working and provable first. Then I'd raise money.
Hmm.
But I didn't build an MVP. I tried to build like this this gargantuan thing from the get go. Like, I just do it all. And my missus at the time, so she's in fintech. She's the chief revenue officer for liquidity technology provider for traders, right? And she's like, "I'm telling you now, this is way too complicated. Just build one of these sections. Just build one." I said, "Nah, let's do the whole thing because the whole point is to test. Like, if I just get them in on this and then I try and push this in and then this in, well, now they bought this and they haven't bought into the whole thing. And like, I want the whole thing. Like, that's what I want to test." She's like, "I'm telling you, just build this one thing." And I'm like, "Nope, stubborn. I'm going to do this." And I didn't do
Yeah.
it. I wasted
Well,
it.
for the record, I am on her team with
Yeah,
that
it's all
idea.
good.
But now we know. Okay, so you're
Sometimes
trying
you
to
got to change
rebuild.
things.
You're down to your last 20 grand. Where does life take you at this point?
I just changed everything up. Went back to what I was originally doing, which was running cohorts, and kind of shifted the gear because I was basically a life coach slash mindset coach slash leadership coach, blah, blah, blah. And I'd been getting more and more fascinated with productivity and getting into the zone. I read Flow by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi like a long time ago, and I was kind of fascinated by that. And I was more fascinated by the zone because in Phuket, there's a lot of fighters here, guys that want
Yep.
to be big and famous. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
fascinated by working with them and seeing what had happened to get them into the zone and how they stay in the zone and how I can leverage that and make that something really powerful. And so I started breaking down like all the things and all the elements and like how to structure that and build that into your day so that you could like get into that state on command and do these things on command. And so I kind of created that into like a 12-week program, which I used to run. And I ran cohorts for that for around about 12, 14 months. And so that kept me going for another 12 months. And I was like, yeah, I'm just not enjoying this either. Like I still like coaching, but I've never liked the marketing side of things, not with like the posting on Facebook and the posting here and doing that. I'm very happy to go and talk and help people and like not even to ask for money. Like I've been flown to give talks in Denver, in Phoenix, in other places in Thailand, in other places in Asia. And like I'm not like, oh, you need to pay me to come out. Like I just quite enjoy going and helping people. Like I'm very nothing has been as rewarding for me in terms of work as helping someone get through something that's debilitating for them, whether it's like mentally or physically, whether it's like getting over eating, getting over smoking, getting over drug addiction, getting over the addiction to sex and cheating on your partner, like doing this, like even someone who couldn't stop procrastinating and getting them to stop procrastinating to start taking action.
Mm.
That I find's been the most rewarding thing ever. The slog was all the marketing stuff and the amount of marketing that I had to do to get the courses filled and the cohorts filled. I'm like, yeah, I'm just not doing this. It just doesn't interest me. And
Hmm.
so while I do love coaching and I still do coaching, around about 18 months ago, I started day trading. And I just started
Whoa.
using.
All right. Hold on a minute. Wait, hold on a minute. What in the world? That not where I expected this to go.
I still coach, and that's the point, right? Like I love coaching, and I'll probably never stop coaching, right? Because I love it. It's absolutely amazing.
So maybe just talk me through before we get to day trading. What is
Mhm.
the bulk of the coaching that you're doing? Who is that client and what are they trying to accomplish?
So I'd say the majority of people. This is going to be tough. I'd say the majority of people that I work with most recently are blue collar business owners.
Okay.
So they either own like a mechanic shop, or they own a plumbing shop, or they own a roof restoration company, or they own like a carpenter or like some kind of fabrication thing. And the majority of them are having, they're either, so a couple of them were going through this. They built up a business and they burnt it down to the ground, built it up again, burnt it down to the ground. Like, okay, like obviously I can build it, but there's something going wrong. I'm like, okay, yeah,
Mm.
you've got all the professional stuff, but your personal life is a dumpster fire. And so like that's echoing across. So we need to fix that. For other people, I mean, that's actually, I could say it a whole bunch of different ways, but ultimately that's what it comes down to, right? Even if they've got like their professional systems in place, they're massively limited by whatever personal stuff they haven't got over. So they'll hit like this break in revenue, or they'll have people just like start leaving in droves, and they don't understand why people are leaving because there's something wrong with the culture because of the way that things are going. And there'll be like a bunch of telltale signs that are starting to happen. And I'll usually go in, and what I'll usually say is like, okay, if you've got your business systems dialed in, then we absolutely have to dial in your personal systems to reflect the same. So if you don't have your business systems dialed in, then we first need to dial in your personal systems so that we can build the professional systems to mirror and like amplify everything that you're going to be changing in your personal life. And so it's
Mm.
just systematizing. And then that, as the fallout of like destroying the app and destroying my coaching practice, I've been reading about body language for a long time. I never really got into it until like 2019, 2020. And then I started to dive headfirst into it and paying attention to like warning signs. So part of the reason the app got so wasted was because of the people I hired, and I made some really bad decisions when hiring, and I was leading by education instead of any other method, and so I was like, okay, yeah, they've got that, and I'll just take care of this part, and just left it.
Mm.
And my project manager told me that he was monitoring the iOS build, and I'm going to monitor the Android build. I'm like, okay, no worries. And then we get to this meeting like 6 months down the road, and there's no iOS build at all. What the hell's been going on for the last 6 months? And so that was like massively sloppy on my part because I had just left it to the project manager, trusted that I'm paying him to do this job and he was doing it, and
Hmm.
nothing had been done. So yeah, um, that then spawned this whole process of like, okay, like reading into language, reading body language, paying attention to what's going on with body language, paying attention to what's going on with your own body language. Is there incongruencies between what they're saying and what they're doing? How to track it, how to read people, how to profile people, and start using that to build proper relationships with people so that you can actually have good relationships with people that you can trust to fulfill the job. But then also in doing that, like if you start analyzing and going through and start reading people, you automatically have to start analyzing and reading what you're doing. It becomes a mirror, right? Because you start seeing everything, so you start having to do all
Mm.
this changing yourself. And I'd say that's what the majority of the stuff that I do now is. It's still all around performance based. It's still around this, but it's creating the systems, the self awareness, and the structures that allow you to read people, read yourself, cut through the noise, and get the result that you want.
I definitely want to talk about body language, but one of the things you talked about was these blue collar business owners is they'll
Mm-hmm.
build it and then they'll just kind of hit a point where they can't build any farther and it kind of tears back down. I've seen that pattern a lot. What are the things that you've come to understand about businesses and business owners as they kind of get to that point and then they can't get over it? Um,
So they can't get over it because they get tunnel vision and they're like, okay, this is what got me here, and they just keep on like. Uh, have you heard that story, 3 Feet from Gold?
I don't know if I have.
So there's this guy. I'm going to butcher this story, okay? So this is not
It's
a
all right.
story, but I'll
It's
give you
okay.
the general synopsis. So this guy goes out, and there's this other guy who starts digging and digging and digging, and he gets down like 3 feet, and he finds these small little golden nuggets, and comes back into town, and he goes, "Oh, he got paid." And then other guys find out, and they go and buy their plots right around his, and they dig and dig and dig, and they get 4 feet nothing, 5 feet nothing, 6 feet nothing, and he goes, "Okay." Then he goes and sells his plot to this other guy who then goes in the hole, digs another foot, and there's this massive golden nugget. And
Mm.
so I think that's the issue that I see that happens with a lot of these guys is they get it's the same thing that happened with me with the app. They get so addicted to the how that they forget the why. So they're like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. We've got to do it this way. And if we don't do it this way, then we're getting these problems. And so they get stuck into this routine. They get stuck into the systems. And people don't realize that systems are the thing that sets you free. They're also a cage because a system's designed to serve itself. And it will
Mm.
come to a point where that system is no longer effective for you, albeit
Hmm.
when you hit $10 million of revenue or when you hit $100 million of revenue, like things start to change because there's going to be different metrics that are going to become important when you've got to include more things in your supply chain, or you've got to have bigger advertising scope, or now you're not going for such a niche market, you're expanding out to a global network, so your cost per acquisition is going to go. Like there's like so many different things that start to change, and they get like stuck. Well, this is the system that worked. This is what got us here. Like, why is it
Yeah.
not working?
Yeah.
And their their limitations is that they started to see themselves as failures. Like they couldn't do these things, and like maybe I can't do it. And the self talk would start to creep in. Or maybe I
Mm.
need someone else. Maybe this should be for someone else. Maybe this isn't me. Maybe I'm not smart enough. And the self talk would just start like spiraling out of control.
Hmm. Yeah, that hits home. I mean, I tell business owners all the time, the things that got you to where you are not necessarily the things that will get you to the next phase.
Right.
And I think that's really hard for business owners because essentially over the whatever first 3 years of your business, you're getting rewarded for this certain behavior. Like I get rewarded when I take charge of everything.
Yep.
Like I manage everything. And that's easy to do when you have two other people, right? It's like
Hmm.
three other people, four other people. They do some of the work, but you're, of course, managing everything. You're watching it all happen. You're seeing it. But then by the time you get to 6, 7, 8, 12 people, it doesn't really work any longer. And
Mm-mm.
the things that you were getting rewarded for, like designing that presentation, it's like, dude, you need someone else to do that. Like,
Yeah.
like somebody needs to go pay payroll. Somebody needs to like ensure that there's money in the bank account now. Like, there's just higher level functions that you need to step up to, and that's hard. I mean, when you've like built your identity around like these are the things that I do for the company, that's hard. Um,
I
I mean,
think,
I'm going through it because I've changed my role like 3 or 4 times over 11 years in business. And now you're like, well, geez, they don't need me in HR anymore. What am I going to do? It's like, geez, they don't need me in brand management anymore. Like, what am I going to do? But it's what you have to do.
well, I think the cool thing is a lot of people get stuck into the idea that their job identity becomes their identity.
Mm.
And so then now it's like it becomes like an attack on who they are versus like, okay, it's just time to upgrade and change and see what's going to be the most beneficial thing for me to do for my business or for the business. And then they also get into the trap like, okay, well, I've done it this way and this is the result I've got. So I'm going to create this perfect SOP. I mean, someone follows it, they're going to produce the exact same thing that I would produce. No, there will be some things that are going to be different. And you need to get, if you can get it to a point where someone can reproduce 80% of what you've got and your focus is better somewhere else, then let them do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and a lot of people are like, well, I said, dude, if it's 80% of the way there and you're pedantic as you are, like that 80% is going to be knocking it out the park for your clients because you're just being nitpicking because your ego, because you don't want to let that up and you just need to let it go. And it's going to do
Yep.
wonders for your clients and for you and for your business. And they're going to be like, oh my God, this is so much faster because we got this done and this. And yeah, there's going to be some hiccups along the way. But like that was the biggest, probably the biggest thing was the ability to let go and
Mm-hmm.
go, you know what, I can allow this person to do this. Like, because people do kind of get protected, like, oh, this is my baby. Like, yeah, I'm not disputing that. It's your company. You built it. You seeded it. You spawned it. You grown it. Like it's going. Like it's past the sapling. It's getting here. I get that. Now you need to plant it into the actual garden as of the box because otherwise you can't grow. But when you do that, you need to realize that much like when you take it out of the sapling tray and you go put it into the actual garden, well, now it's got room to grow because you've taken all the barriers and boundaries off. And the owner is those barriers and boundaries when they do that. And they're
Mm-hmm.
because they're the one that created all those barriers.
Yeah, it's by definition a bottleneck,
Yep.
and like one of my friends, he's a business coach. He has this whole training on like how to stop being the bottleneck in your own company.
Nice.
I was laughing because you said 80%. I think that's exactly what Dan Martell says in Buy Back Your Time. I don't know if you've heard of that book or read that book, but he says if you can get your team to doing 80% of the way that you do it, he's like, that's you move on, like
Oh,
you
okay.
press forward. So it was funny because you guys both came to that same exact percentage. Um,
Well, it's like the 80-20 rule, right?
yeah.
It just seems to be like it's such a if they're getting 80% of the results, then like you're good. People are going to be happy with that.
Hmm. So those people that you're coaching, how are you like going about like getting them to like understand some of those things? That's kind of just like I hate to say
Which
it, but
things?
like well, just like that you need to be able to release tasks. You need to be able to pass them on to individuals. The identity that you have for yourself as whatever, the head delivery of the product, like that's maybe not where you need to go. Um, I mean, those seem like the correct business advice, but I understand it's not just the business advice that you're giving these individuals.
So it's highly contextual. I hate saying that because it sounds like such a cop out, but I promise you it is because it really depends on the person. But typically speaking, it's going to be through a lot of contrastive frames. So I would be saying, okay, I'll usually, depending on the client, I'll go do research on like some of their competitors because usually when I bring them on, I'm like, okay, so if your business could look like someone else's business, not in a separate space, but in the same space, like what revenue, what volume, what this, what that you want to be doing. And I'll usually go and research their competitors and see how they're operating. And I'll call them up, say, oh, and I'll just do some questions. I start asking people about it, and people get really weirded out when you do that. But there's ways to do it to extract information, things like that.
Hmm.
And so I get this information, and I'll say, okay, and get on the phone. Like, okay, so I said, so do you know such? Oh yeah, yeah, I know. Like, okay, do you think he's doing this? Well, yeah. Like, well, what if I was to tell you that He's most certainly not doing that. What if I was to tell you like
Mm.
he was doing that when he was stuck at 13 million a year revenue? And, I said, and you know him? Because sometimes they know him, sometimes they don't. If they do know him, like, have a chat, ask him. I said, what you're going to find is going to shatter your world because you think that they're still doing it and they're not. And so usually that's one of the first ways is to try and get that contrastive frame in there. The other thing I'll start saying is, you just start saying, okay, again, it depends. If they've got kids, I'll go with metaphors around kids. If they're highly religious, I'll use metaphors around things that are to do with religion and leveraging strengths of individuals and things like that. It really depends on the person as to what metaphors I can start to use to give the examples I need. If they're massively into football, I'll start talking to them about, okay, so you've got your offensive, you've got your defensive, you've got your special teams. Like, do you think like you could be the quarterback plus a kicker plus the running back plus this at the same time? Like, well, no, I'm like, right. So they've all got specialist roles. And when you are starting out, you need to be all of those positions and you need to jump from all those things. But now you're starting to run, you realize like that there's too much for you to handle. And for you to be operating at 100% at all those positions, you're going to drop the ball. So would you
Mm.
rather have people in those positions that can consistently hit 80% and you can maybe buffer them up or help them to get over to 90% just with like little tidbits here and there, and that allows you to focus on where the business is going? Because I think a lot of things, and with sports metaphors, it's usually pretty good, especially if they're into team sports. If they're not into team sports, it becomes a bit more challenging, but not so much because then you can add in trainers and all the other things like with boxes and stuff like that.
Mm.
But especially with football, it becomes very easy to go through the process because I start explaining to them that, well, now you're more like the head coach as opposed to the star quarterback. You're still holding on to this identity that you're a star quarterback and you're going to get all the fame because it's your baby and it's your team and it's this and it's that. But really, you need to step out of that role, put someone else in there, and then you're with the coach and you're running all the plays, you're designing the plays, and you're studying the competition so that you can beat them and get ahead and continue to do these things. So it's usually just trying to get them out and like break the paradigm of what they're doing in a way that relates to them, so they can start to marry it and get that linkage that they've been missing, so they can get permission to go and do something else.
Interesting. You said the permission to go and do something else. Is
Yep.
that sometimes something that like they're
Every
holding on
time,
to?
not
It's
sometimes, every time,
yeah, that
every
they have
time.
not given themselves permission
Yep.
to go on and do different things.
Yep.
Hmm. Talk to me about the book that you wrote.
Okay. Um, that
Why
was
do you laugh like that?
well. It's just a bit of a segue. Um,
Yeah.
that that was a passion project, which was driven by necessity because I didn't think I was going to be able to coach. I thought that my coaching days were going. Well, that's not true. There was a very real potential that my coaching days were going to be finished within 3 weeks once I found out I need to have surgery on my eye. Because the last time I had that surgery on my left eye 15 years ago, I went blind and I can't see out of it still. And so there was a very real chance that if they messed up this surgery, then I can't see at all, which would have made coaching next to impossible. I
What
mean,
was the underlying issue?
I had cataracts, which is quite routine, um, though they can go wrong. And if you've got sensitive eyes, which I do have, there was a very real chance of it going wrong, which
Mm.
was indicative of what happened before. And so, yeah, this came out of the whole aftermath of I've been studying body language for a while, and then having all of the dramas unfold as a result of me not paying attention to signals that then led me to losing as much money as I'd lost on the app, plus then nuking my business and my reputation. And so this was like, okay, what's the one thing? If I could show people one thing that'd be absolutely useful for them to negotiate better relationships, and I don't just mean your life partner, your business partner, your employees, your kids, your parents, like it's an operating manual for human beings, and to see when there's deviation, because I believe that I don't believe every single relationship that you have had currently have or will ever have has an expiration date, whether you like it or not. Whether that's you
Hmm.
passing on or someone else passing on or a relationship just ending, like they all have an expiration date. So therefore, it's the most important thing to get as much and give as much as you can to the right relationships. So you're not exerting energy in a way where it's just kind of pointless or frivolous or a waste of time.
Hmm.
And so this is, I broke down stuff that I've been taught from my mentors and stuff that I'd read in books and what I do and how I read people and how I analyze people and how I process people I've never really put it into a thought or a system before, and I found it very useful. And people always ask me, "Well, how can you tell this? And how can you do this?" And so I was like, "Well, what's something that if I do it, once it's done, and I don't necessarily need to do anything, and it can help people." And the only thing that came up was a book, right?
Mm.
Because once it's authored, it's on Amazon. I literally don't have to do anything. It's there, and if people buy it, they buy it, and if they don't, they don't. And obviously, if you don't market it, no one's going to buy it. But
You're back to
it's
marketing.
there, right?
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. Like I'm totally fine with that element of it, and it was just a really concise way to put something useful in the world where I could. Someone said, "Oh, you want to leave a legacy?" I'm like, "No, it's not about leaving a legacy. It's I wanted a way to be able to potentially contribute to my family in case that I couldn't see." And so the book was that, and also I wanted a way to pull apart the well, now it's around about 15 odd years that I've been into self development and actually pull that knowledge together so it wasn't just going to waste inside my brain if I couldn't coach anymore. So it's like, there, it's something useful for people.
Mm. So the book kind of centers around trust.
100%. It centers around how trust is not a feeling, how it's not a characteristic. And my view on trust is, I would say, pragmatic, and that trust is a process and it's on a spectrum. And the spectrum is always moving as long as you're paying attention. And if you
Hmm.
pay attention, then you're never going to get screwed over because you're paying attention to the signs as they're happening, as opposed to what happens as a default inside our brain because we want to learn everything as fast as we can and turn into an automatic pattern, otherwise known as a habit. We do it with people as well. And
Mm.
once we've got to a point with a person where this person is deemed as safe or familiar, we stop paying attention. And so we put them as like in a little like safe box, if you will, and we get
Mm.
this representation that they're a safe person to be around. And then when they start deviating from the norm, our brain's like, oh no, Clay would never do that to us. No, other people, yeah, maybe, but not us. He'd never do that to us. Nope, he's fine. He's cool. Nothing. And if you look back throughout your life, I would challenge you that every time you say that you've been screwed over or blindsided or backstabbed, if you look back, there were absolutely signs. And if you can say there were signs, then you actually saw those signs in the lead up to it. You would just talk yourself out of it for whatever reason. Whether it
Mm.
was you just didn't want to believe it, whether it was you couldn't be wrong about this person because if it makes you wrong about this person, then you can't trust them. So how can you trust yourself? And like you create a whole nother spiral loop with that. So there's multiple reasons for it.
Mm. So that would be if someone, eventually kind of, you know, I think you use the word, betrays you or betrays your trust in some way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
Um, what do you see with like relationships with business partners? I was just at a leadership coaching last week, Monday, and there was, I think, six entrepreneurs in the room, and three out of five of them had or three out of six of them had business partner related issues. So I was like, well, that's interesting. Um, how do you see this with the context of business partnerships and
No
maybe
different.
that they do or don't trust each other, or again, that spectrum?
It's no different. It applies to every relationship, no matter whether it's personal or professional. It's universal because the dynamic of a relationship is how do I want to be relating to this person at the moment? It's a process, right? And
Mm.
so there needs to be an understanding that, especially in business, things typically, I'm going to argue here for a bit, I'm going to argue with myself. Things typically change faster in business than they do personally. unless there's like a major event, right? So,
Okay.
for example, if you get a surprise pregnancy, that changes things pretty quickly in a
Yep.
relationship. But with regards to a business, you usually form a business to achieve a goal and to grow the business.
Mhm.
You don't necessarily, and people by default don't get into relationships to grow and to achieve a common goal,
Okay, that makes sense to me.
right?
You're just having fun. It's fun. We like spending
Exactly.
time with each other.
We're enjoying like there's not that many people that get into relationships just purely out of agenda because they want to achieve this thing and they don't really go down the same path. So business by its nature is structured for more change. And
Yep.
what I see happen time and time again is massive amounts of miscommunication because there is so many assumptions going on.
Oh
So,
yeah.
for example, right now, right, if we take the word trust and I say, well, how do you know you have trust? You're like, Clay, let me tell you. I know I've got trust because of A, B, and C. I'm like, okay, well, I know I've got trust because of F, G, and Z. You're like, oh. So I could be doing, because I know that's how I got trust, that's usually how I exhibit that I am showing you that I trust you. And you will also exhibit that you trust me through ABC. So we could actually be exhibiting that we both trust each other. But the way I show trust is completely off your radar. And the way you show trust is completely off mine. So we think we're kind of not aligned anymore. So
Mm.
the classic example in the personal thing, well, we could stick to business. Let's do that because you asked about that. So I give an example in the book. Two people start a business, right? They're both working 8-hour weeks. They're grinding, they're hustling, they're getting after it. The business is growing like crazy. 3 years in, they have achieved like crazy success. They're doing really, really well. Partner one keeps on hustling and going. Partner two, suddenly his wife gets pregnant. So now his priorities change because now he wants to look after his wife. He wants to spend time with her. He wants to spend time with the kids. He wants like so things start to shift. It doesn't mean that he doesn't want success. Doesn't mean the business doesn't want to grow. It's like no, it means his priorities shifted. So does he want to keep doing 80-hour weeks? No. Does it mean he doesn't want to grow the business? No. So partner number one now sees him as being lazy. He's not committed to the business. Like he's not putting as
Mhm.
much effort as me. And so just through a lack of observation through what's going on and holding it, well, hang on a sec. Back when we started this, you said this, this, and this. Like, yeah, mate, context has changed. It's been 3 years. Things have shifted. And so people get caught up in these representations that get frozen inside their brain. Like, oh, but you said this. You said this 10 years ago. You said this 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago, mate. It's a completely different world now. Things have shifted. So while I'm holding that as true as possible, there are all these other elements I now need to consider that weren't there before. So now I need to include those as well.
Mm. How do you try to deal with a lack of trust between individuals?
Depends on the situation.
Let's say two business people, and maybe they are not allowing each other to operate autonomously, and I think it's because of a lack of trust.
Okay. Do they, when you say work autonomously, are they working remotely or do they work in person?
Let's say in person.
Okay.
So they physically work together.
So typically, there will be, if that's going on, the way to repair it is to go in and extract the values that they believe are necessary for a relationship and for the business. You've got to do two separate things. One's got to be for the business and one for the relationship. The reason for the business is to make sure that they're aligned because I could say the important thing about the business is, I don't know, I'm just going to say money. And you tell me what your most important thing is for your business. Just make something up. I don't care. It doesn't actually mean to be real.
Giving back to employees,
Okay,
making
perfect.
sure they have a good life.
Even better. It's worked well. So on the surface, you're like, money? Jesus, what a selfish prick. And I could be like, giving back to employees? Oh, man, you're also altruistic. What's your problem? Right? Now, let's say I start digging in and you start digging into the value, and I say, yeah, so we need to make sure that we earn enough money so that all our staff are well accounted for, so they can take time off, so that they can look after their kids, so they can put their kids to college. And you're like, oh, well, that's different. That's not that the business is profitable. So people get attached to these labels that people say without acting the surface structure, and they don't pay attention or even bother to dig to what's going on in the substructure of the context. and they make so many assumptions about so many things per day that trust just gets fractured and ripped apart all the time. So, what I do personally, and what I'd recommend people to do, is to go ahead, find someone that can mediate, find someone that can extract the values, find someone that can figure out what's going on at the core, and can help you see the language that you're both trying to say. Because if you started a business and you were headed originally in the same direction, then it's likely that you could still be, but there's been a lot of assumptions that have been shattered along the way. However, it could also be that you guys are no longer aligned and moving in the same direction. In that case, I'd say part ways. Because if you are no longer aligned at the core methodology and the core values of what's going on, it is going to fracture no matter what. No matter how much you guys try and do the right by each other, no matter how much you try and make it work, if there is an internal core misalignment between the two leaders of a company, forget about it.
How do you know when those relationships are not, able to be repaired, whether it be a personal relationship, business relationship, friendship relationship, when you just go, I don't know if this relationship serves me any longer?
So there's a couple ways. Can we choose one specific example instead of
Sure,
just
go
getting
ahead.
into
You
machine
go
gun?
ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So let's say a friendship, because you said that last. That's what's the recency effects got me going on my brain. So if a friendship no longer serves you, typically speaking, there will probably be a significant change. I'll give you an example from my own life. When I quit drinking, I lost about 80% of my friends, like
Hmm.
overnight. Now, drinking is a huge thing. I don't know about now, right? I'm an old man now, apparently, according to all my young friends and associates that I have. You're old, it doesn't count. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So they have these ideas, right? Like, oh, you're back when you're just in drunk and stupid, and they're not too far off the accurate track there, because I was a bit of an idiot. And with this process that's going on, like, we used to bond, we used to go get drunk, we used to get hammered and do all these stupid things together, and I just got tired of it. But my friends had created this idea and this persona around me that was this guy that went out drunk, he was the life of the party, went crazy, blah 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 blah. Also a bit volatile at times, but that was this guy.
Hmm.
And now all of a sudden you're showing up in a completely different way, and they don't know how to respond. They don't know how to react. You're a different person. And so all these memories, all this identities, all this association they've created that they've got with you now becomes completely separate from what is something that can actually move them through into continuing the relationship. So the question is, like, if is it serving you? It's not. Is it serving you? Is do I have to perform to continue to save this relationship?
Mm.
Because if
Uh,
you have to keep on putting on a performance, then it's not in your best interest. So if you have to keep on putting on performance, I guess I do. Okay, have I had a conversation with James? Have I had a conversation with Tina? And go and have that conversation. Like, look, this is where I'm at now. This is the direction I'm going. I don't enjoy this anymore. Because a lot of times people will just expect other people to start understanding. Like,
oh
oh,
yeah. Yeah.
and they're like, just assume, well, you should know. Because I've done. No, don't assume that. That's the whole trust fracture thing we were just talking about before, right? Okay, so you say trust, I say trust, or I say money and you say giving back to employees and contribution. So we make these assumptions. Don't assume anything. Go and ask. Like, if you've got a good relationship, a close relationship with someone, and it's feeling like it's gone off the Richter scale, then go and have a conversation and address it. Don't just
Mm.
like leave and go, oh, it's going to sort itself out. It won't. Go and address it. Because the only consistent thing that I've ever noticed through my entire life is change. That's the only constant.
Mm. I feel like people are really bad at having those conversations, and
Yep.
like you said, that's like something you see so early on in businesses. There's all these unsaid expectations, maybe in relationships too.
Yep.
Oh, the wife expects you to pick up your socks, but she never says it, and then 6 weeks later, she just explodes on you, like you're such a mess in the house, and you're like, I didn't even know you felt that way. Well, how
Yep.
could you not? You're disgusted. It's like, whoa, like I've lived alone for the last 13 years. Like it seemed like it was working. Now we're living
Wasn't a
together, and
problem
it's
for
like, yeah,
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like I know how to pick up after myself. Well, right. So I think that is really tough for people, is just to have that conversation in a healthy way. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
not nagging you, but hey, I'm just letting you know my expectation is this thing, and I don't want you to be shocked someday down the line when I hold you to that expectation.
That's a very challenging thing to do. And
Yeah.
also, there's like shifts that start to happen that are even out of people's awareness, right? So slightly different, but it's more significant and pays more attention. In a relationship, when you're dating someone, it's very different to when you're engaged to someone, which is very different to when you're married to someone, which is
Okay.
very different to when you have kids. Because there are a whole bunch of societal conditioning, religious conditioning, cultural conditioning about what is acceptable and not acceptable for when you're dating someone, to when you're engaged to someone, to when you're married to someone, to when you're a mother or a father. So you'll go from, and I've seen it happen many times in relationships, you'll have this extremely attractive woman who looks after herself and a guy looks after himself. They go out. She's wearing short skirts or short dresses. I'm not talking about, you can see all the bods and bips. I'm saying like short, right? Very feminine, very sexy, very this. And then they get married and she doesn't really wear those anymore. Then she becomes a mother and she's like, I'm not wearing that. I can't. I'm a mother. And the guy's like, what? What's the problem? Like, you're still sexy. You're still attractive. And so this woman that he fell in love with that, presents herself in this way now presents herself a different way. And on the other side, not to make it all like women are all wrong here, guys will like put in this huge effort when they first start dating. So like, oh, I'm going to dress up sharp, go to the gym, go do my hair, going to do this. And then they kind of go the other way. Like, oh, yeah, it'll do. I just wear my, what do you guys call them? Jumpsuit. So you call them like jumpsuit, tracksuit pants,
Like, yeah,
sweatpants.
sweatpants.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sweatpants,
So
joggers, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I just walk around like that. It's fine. That's perfectly fine. It's acceptable. So
My
at the
country
start, like,
friend, my country friend would say, "Them sweatpants with the tight ends, the sweatshirt ends on them." It's like those are joggers, yeah.
okay,
The sweatshirt end pants. I'm like, you're an idiot.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what it's like hanging out with him. He's a wild card. But yeah, you're right. People stop putting in effort, and that's just such a strange thing to me because it's like, no, I was putting in the effort for myself the whole time, but not
right.
everybody is like that, right? Not
Nope.
everybody has that internal like, no, I'm going to the gym because I want to look good. Like when I look in the mirror and I don't see my abs, I'm like, you're like, my girlfriend's like, your self talk is horrible, and I'm like, my self talk is fine, okay? Like it keeps me honest. Like, if I have like one too many pieces of pizza, I look in the mirror, I'm like, you're fat and disgusting, and she's like, Alex, you're like 12% body fat instead of 11 now. And I'm like, this is unacceptable. Like we need to do something. She's like, you're crazy. But yeah, that's just me.
It's just
Not everybody
standards,
has that.
right? It's standards, and there's
Yeah.
different standards that are acceptable for different people.
Hmm. So what are the things that people can do to build trust amongst relationships, or just maintain that trust, or spot when trust is starting to slip?
Build trust is pretty simple. Do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it.
Okay.
On top of that, mean what you say and say what you mean. Don't mince your words. Don't say one thing and expect someone to mind read and interpret something else. Like, be direct. A lot of people like to dance around the point instead of just getting straight to the point. There was a guy called me a few years ago now. It must be 3 or 4 years ago. He's a client of mine. And I hadn't spoken to a long time. And he spoke for just shy of 3 hours. And at the end of the 3 hours, he's like, "Hey Clay, like I got to ask you a question." I'm like, "Yeah, man, what's up?" He's like, "Yeah, man, can I get some energy off you?" I'm like, "What? Energy?" Like, "Yeah, can I get some energy off you?" I'm like, "Man, I'm not a drug dealer, sorry." He's like, "No, no, no. Like, can you give me some money?" I'm like, "Oh, so that's what you've been
Oh,
waiting for 3 hours to ask me?"
yeah, yeah,
Like,
right.
I said, "Dude, like, if you just called me up and said, 'Hey, man, I'm in a bind. Can you lend me some money?' and not wasted 3 hours of my time, I probably would have said yes. But you
Yeah.
just chewed 3 hours of my time, and I don't give you my time and my money. That's just not going to happen. So,
Yeah,
like,
you get one or the other.
yeah,
Yeah, not both. That's funny.
and like that's so common with people, though. Like don't try and dance around it. Just have the conversation. Like, if this is what you're after, ask this thing. Like, don't. Oh, hey, yeah. By the way, what's going on? Oh, by the way. Oh, and also, could you maybe help potentially with? No, just ask the thing.
So, like, how do you have any strategies that you coach people up on this? That I think that is like the underlying issue with so many relationships is that you didn't say the thing that you wanted to say,
Hmm.
right? Like your girlfriend was gaining weight and gaining weight and gaining weight and gaining weight, and then you just break up with her. And she's like, "What happened?" And it's like, I could have told you, like, 18 months ago, like, you needed to lose 5 pounds when it was 5 pounds, but now it's like, 25 pounds. So it's like, you're too far gone. I'm sorry. That's obviously a silly example, but so
It's
often
one sec.
I.
It's not. It's not. And I'll tell you why. It's not even insensitive. For a lot of men, there is a huge component of being sexually attracted to someone. And physical attraction is a massive part of the whole masculine energy. Like people that we want to be with someone that we are physically attracted to.
Mhm.
And that's just how it is. Right? There's all this, what is it? Pansexual, sapiosexual, whatever sexual, like whatever. Like you're attracted to people because you're attracted to people for whatever reason. And if you are someone, and I don't really care if people call me what's insensitive or immature or what's the other one? Neanderthal. We're back in the caveman days. Like, no, I would, I not would, I appreciate when I have a very attractive woman that I'm dating, that I'm married to, that I'm engaged with, whatever frame of reference where I am at my point in life. That's important to me. And I will absolutely say something. So, and I'll use the frame like, look, you're free to do what you want with your body, and it's up to you. Just know that when we got together, like, and you were asking me, and you didn't have to ask me to do these things for you or ask me to do this. I wanted to do these things for you because you were looking after yourself, and when you look after yourself, it makes me want to do things for you. Because
Mm,
if you're not looking after yourself, then I see that as, well, you don't really care about how you look for me either.
right. It's almost like a lack of love for me. You're showing like a lack of love for me because you're not taking care of yourself.
Um, no, I'd say
You don't like that?
I see where you're going with it.
Not to make it like harsh, like you don't love me anymore.
No, no,
Why?
no, definitely not. No, I get what you
Yeah.
mean. I get what you mean.
Yeah.
For me, though, it's not necessarily a lack of love. I say, okay, typically speaking, when people get into a relationship, typically speaking, not like you, Alex, okay, because you go to the gym for yourself, but the majority of people go to the gym and they want to look good and they want to do these things, right? But you do that because you want to look good. Then I see the majority of people that get in a relationship, as soon as they get in a relationship, like, okay, I can ease off. I don't need to do anything.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
right.
I've heard
So
my
they're
male friends say that when they get married, they're like, "Nah, that doesn't matter anymore." And I'm like, "What?"
like, yes, it does. Absolutely, it
Yeah.
does. And that's the point, right? It's like, oh, well, I've got her now. I'm like, yeah. So now you need to work just as hard to keep her, you lazy son of a gun. Like, that's how it works. Like, you put in this effort to attract this woman. She put in this effort to attract you. Like, you did the things, you did the dance. And now you're like, okay, the dance is over. And like, we've won this competition. But now all these other competitions, don't worry about it. Like, we're just going to wing it. And so to me, it's more of a lack of commitment.
Well, that's kind of the Esther Perel, right? The threat of the third. Just like there's always this threat of the third person coming into the relationship and stealing your mate, and she's like, you need to like believe that that is a real thing, like not like on guard, like with your guns drawn, but the idea is
Maybe.
like, hey, like if you do not take care of yourself, like there might be another person out there who would be taking care of themselves and would be like interested in your wife or your husband or your
Yep.
girlfriend or your boyfriend. And it's like you have to constantly, like you said, oh, I've won the competition. It's like, no, the competition isn't over. It's like maybe you won this season, but you got next season and the season after and the season
Yep.
after. We're trying to build a dynasty, man, not have one good season.
Yeah. That's exactly how it works.
Yeah. What are the other things about trust that you think people misunderstand, and or you see, breaking down through your work often?
Uh, well, besides the fact that I think everyone's definition of trust is completely wrong.
M-
Um,
What's
yeah.
yours?
So, a mutually beneficial outcome. That's it.
Mutually beneficial outcome is trust.
Yep. That is the basis of every single element of trust wrapped into a sentence.
So,
Right
so
now, it's in your best interest to have me on the show because I can potentially add value to you and your audience. So you can trust that I'm going to show up and I'm going to give everything that I've got. I can also trust that you want a high quality show. So you're going to ask questions. You're actually going to have people on that you're interested in. You're going to have people on that's going to have topics that you believe going to add value to your audience. I can trust that you're going to put on a great show because you want me to be here. Mutually beneficial. If you did not think I could add value, would you ask me to come on the show?
No.
Right. If you did not think that when you date or get engaged or get married to someone, that they're going to be a net positive effect on your life, would you marry them?
Mm.
No. Every relationship that you enter into is because you believe there's going to be a positive outcome. So this is why trust is not permanent, because values change, because people change over time. Not necessarily like they become a horrible person or they become the devil or they become a saint. Like, it's not that. But people change as time changes, circumstances change. They start moving up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They move down when something happens. These things change. So because these things change and you're always paying attention, you're always observing someone else, you're always observing their behaviors, their patterns, and you're not getting stuck into this is how Alex is going to be for the rest of his life. He's always going to be like this. This is Alex. That's never going to change.
Mm.
No, you're going to change. You're invested. You're invested in growth. You're invested in doing better. So of course you're going to change. And is that change continuing to be beneficial for me as well?
Mm.
Not anymore. Okay. So now I can trust that while you're not doing anything to try and get me or screw me over, but I can trust that it may no longer be in my best interest. And I can trust that you will, just like me, do absolutely what's in your best interest. And it might come to a junction in the road where they part. And that's
Mm.
okay. That means the relationship served its purpose and it's time to move on.
Mm. How do you think about like people in the the incentives changing throughout a relationship? That's something that I think is tough. You said it in the beginning, um, that people become like accustomed and familiar to a person, and then they
Mm-hmm.
kind of like supplant trust on that person. It's like
Yep.
maybe if we do 3 or 4 podcasts together, I'll go like Clay. That's my guy. You know, I trust him. It's like but
Right.
you don't know Clay. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason necessarily other than you had 5 or 6 hours of conversations with him that you could trust him. How do you like coach people to think about like breaking that, making sure they're not falling into that, and then as time goes on, um, if people do change who they are, understanding that it may not be what you were seeking in the early going.
So the frame that I always approach every relationship, every conversation is that I trust everyone,
Okay.
every single person to do what's in their own best interest.
Uh,
And all I'm looking for is alignment. Does their best interest align with mine? And I'm just constantly checking. And as long as your best interest aligns with mine, I'm like, okay, we're good to go. Let's keep going. And when that alignment stops to be, I'm like, hey, Alex, man, it's been great. Thanks very much, dude. We've had a great run. This has been perfect. I wish you all the best. And you know what? In 4 years' time, we might bump down the road again. Like, hey, we're aligned again. Hey, it's great to see you, man. Good stuff. Let's keep going.
mm,
And so it becomes less of this personal attack of someone trying to get me, someone's out to get me, someone's out to screw me over, and just like, okay, we're aligned. We're no longer aligned. The relationship, we both got something from it. We both got something useful from it. It was fantastic for both of us. Maybe it was only fantastic for the first month, for maybe the first year. I mean, who knows? But you're just checking for alignment. And then you're observing the patterns of how they show up. And you're looking for a deviation from baseline. So people show up. This is what people will typically start saying is red flags. Now, women typically understand red flags much easier and much faster than men. They also
mm,
happen to be way worse at overriding. Go, no, it's fine. It's Scopy. I'll just go anyway. And this whole process, right, just keeps cycling through. And you can just pay attention. The more you get to know someone, the more you'll have a default understanding of their baseline mannerisms, of how they talk, of how long they take to respond, of their filler words. No. Like if all these things start like piling up and increasing, you're going to get an internal reaction. It's like something's off here. But until you actually start paying attention to, and until you've got the information to recognize what these little things are, you don't have the ammunition for your conscious mind to be able to connect with what your subconscious is telling you, like there's something going on here, because your conscious mind is rationalizing it. Oh no, Clay, no, he's trustworthy. He's never let us down. He's not going to do that. And so we'll automatically just override it. But when
mm,
you educate yourself in what to listen for in terms of the language, what to see in terms of incongruent behaviors and the nonverbals, then you can start to go, oh, hang on a sec. Yeah, no, there's a couple of things I need to pay attention. And so the whole trust trap idea is just about paying attention. So when you start to notice whatever the red flag is, you are now just paying attention. You're not ignoring it. You're not overriding. Go, no, it's safe. It's not this. No, you're paying attention. Okay, let's pay attention. Let's pay attention. Let's see where it's going. Let's see what we can do with this. Let's see how we can see the alignment's there. Is the alignment still there? No, it's not. Like, what's going on? And have the conversation. Hey, like, is this still really important to you? It kind of seems like we're going in different ways, going in different directions. And the biggest thing you can do is have the hard conversations, right? I don't think they're hard at all. I think they're harder not to have. I think, yeah, they might be uncomfortable, but the result of not having that uncomfortable conversation leads to things that are 10 times more uncomfortable.
Well, I think that's some people might say it's a bad framework, but I think it's a good framework to think about everyone as performing in their best interest. You said your trust is that every single person will perform in their best interest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then you're not like hurt, like or making an assumption that like, oh, Clay's gonna always just do this work for free. He's gonna come on the podcast time after time for free and donate all his energy and effort. But like having that framework is actually inappropriate, and actually what's going to be like when you're like, dude, I can't come on to the podcast for the 8th time for free anymore. You go, what? It's like, I can't believe Clay. But it's like, well, think about it. Like, he was donating all this time, all this effort, all this energy to you at no cost. Like, this is his business. It's not in his interest any longer. I think that is an interesting and helpful way to think about all of our relationships.
So some people would tell me that it's a very, what's the word I got? It's not conceited.
I think it's kind of like a negative view of humanity,
Yeah.
right? Like everyone is out for themselves, but
exactly.
I don't think that's really what you're saying.
No, there's nothing negative about it whatsoever. It's not like, okay, you're out to screw me over. No, you're looking out for number one, which is what you should be doing. Because if you don't look out for yourself, people are just going to walk all over you at some point, because everyone else is also looking out for themselves, because you have to. And it doesn't make you selfish. It doesn't make you a villainous human being because you're looking out for yourself. You're not looking out for yourself at the expense of other people. And I think that's the last part that people just automatically tack on the back of that. Like, oh yeah, because like they're going to. No, it's not at all. Like, you're just looking out for yourself, because you need to look out for yourself, because you're the most important person in your world. Because if you cease to exist, then your world ceases to exist. And so that's an okay thing. That's like a positive thing. And I don't see it as a negative thing. I don't see it as a way to frame the world in a negative or jaded way. I just see it as an extremely pragmatic point of view, because there's not a single relationship that you've ever had and that you will ever encounter for the rest of your life where you'll come across someone that is wanting to go into a relationship because they're getting something negative out of it. And people are like, oh, what about those women that are in abusive relationships? Like, yep, they most likely learned at a young age through trauma that this is how they feel familiar. And while it's not necessarily a net positive thing for them, their nervous system sees it as familiar. So they stay in those relationships until they learn to break that habit. So yeah, they are getting something positive out of it. Why does a drug user take drugs? Why did I drink alcohol so much? Like, it was not a net positive thing for me, but it was doing something for me. And so that's why I continue to do it. Like, every single relationship, whether it's with another human being or whether it's with food or whether it's with some kind of substance or whatever it is, like, it's all the same.
This is really interesting, man. I think we're approaching dang near 2 hours, but Clay, is there anything else that you feel like you want to say before we cut off here, man? I know we jumped all around from the Navy all over the world, back to Thailand.
No, I think we've pretty much covered a good spread. I think if they've got to this part of the interview, they would have got a lot of information. And the one thing I would ask is to just keep an open mind. Just test it. Test it for yourself. Don't go into it with this pre-diagnosed conclusion that, okay, this is a selfish way to be. Oh, everyone's going to see me as conceited. They're going to see me as evil. No. Just go and analyze and test all your relationships. Just do the test of one and see whether you have willingly gone into any relationship in your life that you knew was going to bring you down, that you were not going to get value from. And then have a look at how many relationships you stayed in that were bringing you down, that you did not want to leave. Now, there might be some that you stayed in because, social conditions, because you're worried it's going to upset this or it's going to have this effect with this person, but you still did not want to be in there. And that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that people will still do things against like their own will, but like there's that internal drive, like this is not good for me. I should just speak up and say something, but they're worried about the follow-on effect it's going to have with other people. So just do the test of one, and you'll be able to see.
And even in your own personal life, you can look at things that, oh, well, whatever, I coach this person at no cost, or I go to the homeless shelter and I, dole out soup. But it's like, well, yeah, but like you enjoy that. Like it makes you feel better after you do it. It's like you said, oh, I like coaching. Sometimes I'll fly out and do coaching for free. It's like, yeah, but you liked to do it. So like that was the thing that you got in return. It wasn't total and incomplete charity. Most people don't do charity that they hate, right? It's like, God, I hate doing this thing.
No one does charity they hate, right? Yeah. That was the whole thing. Like coaching is like the most rewarding thing that I've done. Like hands down, it's fantastic. I still love it.
So even if you're not getting paid, you're getting that satisfaction and that enjoyment from being like, I know how to do this thing.
I'm just very particular with who I do that with now, because I've had people that did the whole, I'm poor me, like everything's bad, and then they go and drop like $100,000 on a car. I'm like, all right, okay, that was my mistake. Good to know.
So where can people catch the book? Is it available in Amazon US?
Yeah, it is.
It's called The Trust Trap.
Trust Trap. It's presently undergoing a major upgrade because it was written in like 3 weeks. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't put into the book that I really wanted to. Like I released it and there was spelling errors in it. There was like double paragraphs and stuff. There was a whole bunch of stuff. So I then edited like those minor things out, and I've been going and actually properly editing and going through the book. So.
It is available on Amazon US. The Kindle is available also. And what about an Audible version? Or are you thinking about that?
So I won't do the Audible version until I've rewritten it, and then I'll do the Audible version. And I've been asked about it, like, why don't you do this? Like, well, because I want to get the book to where I'd like to. That wasn't rushed and like smashed out and pulled apart from a whole bunch of things in 3 weeks, where I can actually take time to like structure it and layer it and get it to exactly what I want.
And I'm assuming the good news is you haven't lost your eyesight?
Yeah, that's why we're having this conversation. I can still see you. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I figured just, with how, mobile you look behind camera here, that you aren't fumbling around. Where's the camera? Where am I in space? All right, Clay, thank you so much, man. This was great. And people, where should they catch your other stuff that you do?
What other stuff?
Well, you got your coaching. I'm not sure if that's still a big part. The Trust Trap, trusttrapbook.com is a good spot. And
that's the best place. Go to trusttrapbook.com. There's like a comment section there, or get in touch section. You can get in touch with me there. That's probably the best way. Or go at claymoffat.com will be the other one. The website itself is down, but my email hasn't changed. It's been my email for years.
Sweet, man. Thank you so much, Clay. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
Awesome, man.